Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Daya Kora More Tomamina Ke Dayalu Jagata Sansare Patita Pavana Hetu Tavaravatara Mosamapatita Prabhu Napaibeyara Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balokana Koro Ami Bado Dukhi Daya Kora Sita Pati Advaita Gosai Daya Kora Sita Pati Tava Kripa Bale Bai Caitanya Nitai Tava Kripa Bale Bai Caitanya Nitai Aha Swarup Sanatana Rupa Raghunatha Bhatta Duga Sri Diva Aprabhu Lokanath. Thanks. Daya Gora Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Daya Gora Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Ramachandra Sangamage Narottama Dasa Ramachandra Sangama Narottama Dasa Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Daya Kora More Okay, this has a really long translation. Anyway, it's a really nice song to sing today because It's the lotus feet of Lord Gauranga, and also there are mention of two devotees that we're going to speak about today, and that is Gopal Bhatta Goswami and and also Ramachandra, who was a great friend of Narottam Das, and he's mentioned in this bhajan too. So we're going to do Caitanya Caritamrita 1 to 7, and then because 7 happens to be about devotees and the glories, then we can talk about those particular devotees. So I think verse 7's on the board, so we will just do the first 6, and then, I'll just quickly read through the first 6, and then we can do the 7th together. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yasya prasadat agyopi sadya sarvagyatam vrajit sa Shri Caitanya Devo me Bhagavan samprasidatu. Even a person with no knowledge can immediately acquire all knowledge simply by the benediction of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, I am praying to the Lord for his causeless mercy upon me. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gauradaye Pushpavanta Chitro Sanda Tamonuda. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Shri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Jayatam surato pango mama manda matirgati matsarasya padam bhoja radha madana mohana. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Divyad Vrindaranya Kaupadramudha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanastha Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Deva Prashtalipi Sevyamano Smarami. In a temple of jewels in Vrindavan, underneath a desire tree, Shri Shri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. Shrimad Rasa Rasarambhi Vangsivata Tatastita Karshan Venusvanar Gopir Gopinata Shriyestuna. May Gopinathji, who attracts all the gopis with the song of his flute, and who has begun the most melodious rasa dance on the bank of the Jamuna in Vangsivat, be merciful upon us. Jaya Jaya Gaurachandra Jaya Kripa Sindhu Jaya Das Sachisuta Jaya Dinabandhu. All glories to Sri Gaurahari, who is an ocean of mercy. All glories unto you, the son of Sachi Devi, for you are the only friend of all fallen souls. Jaya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra. Jaya Shrivasadi Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra. Jaya Shrivasadi Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay. Jaya Advaita Chandra. Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra. Ladies? Jaya Jaya, all glories, Nityananda, to Lord Nityananda, Jayadvaita Chandra, all glories to Advaita Prabhu, Jaya, all glories, Srivasadi, to all the devotees, headed by Srivas Thakur, Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda, all glories unto the devotees of Lord Gaurasundar. Translation: all glories unto Lord Nityananda and Advaita Prabhu, and all glories unto all the devotees of Lord Caitanya, headed by Srivas Thakur. So, because there's no purport, I'm going to follow Krishna Kirtan Prabhu's lead and just mention something from some other purports which are also there to glorify devotees. First of all, I just wanted to read a quote from the Garuda Purana, which says, in this age of Kali, the fame of one who is known as a great devotee is very rare. However, such a position is superior to that of the great demigods like Brahma and Mahadev. This is the opinion of all spiritual masters. And then we have the Madhya Lila 1189. So Narottam Das, the purport says, Narottam Das Thakur, honouring the personal associates of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, has sung as follows: Gaurangaya Sangigane Nitya Siddha Karimane Seyai Brajendra Sutta Pasha. One who is intelligent understands that all the personal associates and devotees of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are ever liberated. This means they do not belong to this material world, because they are always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. One who is engaged in the Lord's devotional service is 24 hours daily and never forgets the Lord is called a Nitya Siddha. Then we have, there's a quote Srila Prabhupada gives, Gaurangara Bhakti Gane Jani Jani Shakti Dhare. The purport of this song is that the devotees of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are very powerful, and each and every one of them can deliver the whole world. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with these wonderful pure devotees who are so exalted and eternally at the feet of the Lord, and they can deliver everyone. And the last quote is a verse and purport from the Antya Lila, and it's regarding our subject of glorification today, one of them. I pray to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis, Sri Rupa, Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva, Gopal Bhatta, and Dasa Raghunath, so that all impediments to my writing this literature will be annihilated and my real desire will be fulfilled. And Srila Prabhupada says, if one wants to benefit the entire world, he will certainly find persons like hogs and pigs who will put up so many impediments. That is natural. But if a devotee seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the six Goswamis, the merciful Goswamis will certainly give the Lord's servitor all protection. It is not astonishing that impediments are placed before those spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. Nevertheless, if we adhere to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis and pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated and the transcendental devotional desire to serve the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. So, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, there's a lot of information. So I have to read some of it. So we know now, we've just heard that these are eternal associates of the Lord. So they have their service in Vrindavan where they're very intimately connected with the Lord constantly. And they come with the Lord when he comes for his various incarnations. They come to enrich his pastimes and to award benediction to all the living entities who come across them. So we start our story here with Lord Caitanya traveling, and he went to South India. And as he was going through each village, he was chanting the holy name, and people were so attracted. And it's described that if you just saw the form of Lord Caitanya, you'd be filled up with ecstatic love, which is pretty amazing. So a lot of people were being blessed. So he finally came to Rangakshetra on an island in the middle of the Kaveri River. So that's a very beautiful, famous temple there, very gorgeous, huge, extensive temple. So throughout the day and night, hundreds and thousands of pilgrims were going and coming to take darshan of Lord Ranganath. The temple hall resounded with the sounds of hundreds and thousands of brahmanas chanting Vedic hymns. In the midst of this scene from Vaikuntha entered Sri Gaura Sundar, chanting the names of Krishna in his sweet voice that defeated the voices of 10 million Gandharvas. Everyone in the temple became dumbstruck, amazed and thrilled with wonder. What unprecedented beauty! His bodily effulgence makes molten gold appear lackluster. From his eyes, which are like the full-blown petals of a lotus flower, trickled down tears of ecstatic love. Every limb, every part of his body was filled with such exquisite grace that even the mind of Cupid gets stolen away. The Brahmanas began to consider, is this a demigod? Could such symptoms and emotions be found in human beings? When he came before the deity, he fell down as a tree blown down by the wind, and some people felt that a mountain of gold was rolling on the ground. Sri Venkata Bhatta, who was a great Brahmin Vaishnava, seeing the divine personage, became restless with ecstasy. His heart being flooded with devotion, he got up and began to move the crowds away so that the Lord could engage in chanting and dancing. When the Lord had regained his external consciousness, Venkata Bhatta approached him and took the dust of his lotus feet. Mahaprabhu gazed towards him, saying, Krishna, Krishna, and embraced him firmly. Sri Venkata Bhatta invited Mahaprabhu to come to his house, and having brought him there, he very reverently washed his lotus feet. Along with the other family members, he drank the water. So you know who drank the first sip of that water? Gopal, 8 years old. And he became so ecstatic that he began crying and absolutely like drenched with tears and full of ecstasy. His whole body was like rippulating with happiness. So Mahaprabhu came to Rangakshetra in the year 1511. And Venkata Bhatta had two very exalted brothers. One was Tirumala Bhatta, and the other one was Prabodhananda Saraswati, who was a great sannyasi and teacher and Vaishnava. Wonderful. Actually, recently I came across some prayers of his. There's like a huge, big book of his prayers, and they're just so ecstatic. I don't know where I can get that book, but it was really, it's full of nectar. So when Gopal came to offer his obeisances to the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, he picked him up and he very affectionately seated him on his lap. And after that, he gave the boy various services, like when he'd finish his meals, he'd wash his plate, he'd massage the Lord's legs, even though he's so small, but he was very competent, and he just was completely in love with Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So he was there for 4 whole months. I'd like to tell a very nice pastime which occurred in that time. So Govinda Das was the servant of Lord Caitanya, and he kept on telling Gopal stories about Lord Chaitanya's childhood and how naughty he was, what he would do in Mayapur, how he'd misbehave so much. And he'd said, he'd said when he was your age, he'd fake going to school and then go to the Ganga where the rishis and brahmanas were taking bath. And he'd go underwater and he'd pull their gumshas, or he'd pull their beards, or he'd jump on their backs while they were meditating. So Gopal Bhatta was thinking, oh, how I wish I'd taken birth then. I got born at the wrong time. I could have been his friend. I would love to have seen him. And he was very intent, you know, that, oh, I so wish I could see the Lord in that pastime of his. I just want to see Nimai of Nadia. Because, of course, Lord Caitanya, when he was there, he was a sannyasi and he had the shaved head, but he wanted to see Nimai when he was in that mood and time. So one time he slept after thinking this, and he got transported in his dream to Nadia, and he got to see all those pastimes, naughty pastimes of the Lord. He saw them all. And then afterwards, he saw him dancing with Lord Nityananda and Advaita. And Gopal was shaking in ecstasy in his dream, as he was dreaming. Then Lord Nityananda and Advaita called out to him, and they caught his ear, and they began talking to him in his ear. But he woke up. He woke up. He never got to hear what they wanted to say, so he was really full of remorse. And actually he just got up and he ran into Lord Chaitanya's room to tell him what had happened. But there in Lord Chaitanya's room he saw Krishna playing on his flute. And around him were all these ecstatic birds and peacocks dancing, and Krishna was playing his flute, looking here and looking there. So the deer were crying, Mother Earth was trembling. So Gopal Bhatta could not believe what he was seeing. So then he looked closer and he saw Nimai of Nadia. So he fell down like a rod at the Lord's lotus feet. Yes, this is what I wanted to see. And then when he got up, there he saw Lord Caitanya in his sannyas dress and shaved head. So Gopal Bhatta, he's just 8 years old, he was completely bewildered. So Lord Caitanya said to him, yes, I knew that you wanted to see this form. Indeed, I am Krishna, and I have come in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Till now I have not revealed this, so please keep it secret. He embraced Gopal Bhatta and covered him with tears, and then he said to him, I expect miracles from you in the future. You'll go to Vrindavan. You'll perform services that I would like to do, but I cannot, as I will be in Puri. You'll assist Rupa and Sanatan with their writing of literatures. You'll have many disciples. You'll teach Vedic literature. I will empower you. So this was a wonderful experience that was the base of Gopal Bhatta Goswami's life. And as it happened, Lord Caitanya was there for 4 months, and Venkata Bhatta and his wife, they were actually devotees of Lakshmi Narayan. So that was there was a little bit of disagreement. Lord Caitanya, obviously he was worshipping in the mood of Radharani, and he was worshipping Krishna. So he actually spoke to Venkata Bhatta quite a few times, and in the end he convinced him, because he said to him, well, okay, if Lakshmi Narayan the highest, why did Lakshmi perform so many austerities to try to get into the Lord Krishna's pastimes? And why was she refused? So then Venkata Bhatta could understand, oh yes, so his understanding sort of moved towards Krishna. So he also was completely in love with Lord Caitanya. And Lord Caitanya told him, you can't go, Gopal Bhatta, you can't go yet, you have to stay and look after your parents, they're pure devotees. I want you to stay until they leave their bodies, and then I want you to go to Vrindavan. So he remained with his parents and took care of them, and actually his father and mother left at the same time. And as they were leaving, they were calling, before they left, they told him, now you go and serve Lord Gauranga in Vrindavan. Do what he's told you. And then as they were leaving, they were actually chanting the name of Gaurachandra as they left their bodies. So very, very exalted Brahmanas. And then Gopal Bhatta could fulfill that instruction of the Lord to go to Vrindavan. So yes, so before he left, he kind of initiated Gopal Bhatta through this dream and then later on, and ordered him to move to Vrindavan after the disappearance of his parents. Very quickly, Gopal became expert in grammar, poetry and rhetoric, began to study Vedanta. And this was under his uncle, Prabodhananda Saraswati, who's a very glorious Vaishnava. And he taught him from the Bhakti scriptures. So Gopal Bhatta was always thinking of the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu and when he might again meet him. At the same time, he couldn't leave his aged parents. Finally, when they left, he immediately went to Vrindavan at the age of 30 years. And he missed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being in Vrindavan, and he felt sad about that. But they sent word as soon as he got to Vrindavan to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was very pleased. And Mahaprabhu had previously told Shri Rupa and Sanatan that Gopal Bhatta would one day come there to Vrindavan. So they understood who he was, and they treated him with great care and affection, just like they would their own brother. And they became lifelong companions. So once Lord Chaitanya received the message that Gopal Bhatta had come to Vrindavan, he sent the wooden sitting plank that he sat on, he sent that for Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and along with a pair of his undergarments and one of his upper cloths. So having received these gifts, Gopal Bhatta was in ecstasy, and he worshipped them as the prasad, the tadiya of Mahaprabhu. So he would bow down before them, he would cry daily to see these gifts of Lord Chaitanya. When he worshipped his deities, he would sit on that wooden plank. And they're still being worshipped in Radharaman temple. You can see them there. The pujaris will show you. So he had no fixed residence, just like Rupa Sanatan. They would spend their night in different kunjas under different desire trees. And he spent his time studying the scriptures and composing various Vedic literatures. So after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, Gopal Bhatta Goswami felt intense separation. So he would cry and cry for the Lord. And the Lord appeared to him in a dream and told him, if you want my darshan, I want you to take a trip to Nepal. So he immediately, as soon as he woke up, he left for Nepal. And he bathed in that famous Gandaki river. And when he dipped his water pot in the river, he was surprised to see several shalagram shilas hopped into his water pot. So he emptied them out gently, and next thing, he filled the water pot and they jumped in. He emptied them out gently, and again they jumped in. So he realized, I meant to take these shilas. So he was very happy to do that. And yes, so Gopal Bhatta, yeah. So when he came back to Vrindavan, he would carry those 12 shalagrams in a piece of cloth tied at the corner. But he would worship them and put them in a basket at night and worship them in the day. Worship them in the day and then carry them. So one day a wealthy man came to Vrindavan and he offered Gopal Bhatta some clothes and ornaments for his shalagrams. But Gopal Bhatta was like, what can I do with them? You're very kind. I can't use them. Can you give them to someone else that can use them for deities? Because, my shalagrams. He said, no, I want you to have this cloth and this ornaments. So Gopal Bhatta was meditating all the time that he wished that he could have a form of Krishna that he could actually dress and decorate with use these valuable cloths and ornaments for. So So Lord Nrsingadev's appearance came along, and of course he fasted all day long, and he was really meditating on the fact that Lord Nrsingadev came out of the stone pillar and manifested to Sri Prahlad. So he was thinking, I wish you would come out of stone and manifest. So he was really meditating on that. And he put his shalagrams to bed and to rest, and then he took rest late in the night. And then he dreamed, because they hardly slept, the Goswamis hardly slept. And then he had a dream that Krishna was blessing him. And and then he took his bath in the morning, and he came back and uncovered his shalagrams to do his puja, and he saw that there was this beautiful, just little black deity of Krishna. And he was like so special. When he would meditate, when Gopal Bhatta would meditate on a form, because he really wanted a form, he would meditate on the combination of Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath. So that was the form that he meditated on. So when he saw this beautiful deity, he realized that, yes, indeed, this is a combination of Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath. And that's Radharaman deity. So the Shila called the Damodar Shila was the one that had manifested as the beautiful threefold bending form of Sri Bhangananda Krishna. He's very curvy, Radharaman, he's very gorgeous. So Gopal Bhatta was floating in an ocean of ecstasy. He fell to the ground and offered dandavats and prayers. So that day after Nrsinga Chatur Dasi is observed there as the appearance of Sri Radharamanji, and they use 500 litres of milk for the Lord's pleasure to make sweets and all sorts of different foodstuffs for him. So when Rupa and Sanatan, as well as the other devotees, received news of this miracle, they came running to see the Lord. Gazing on the Lord's transcendental form, which bewildered all the living entities of the many various planets, they all bathed him with their tears. This deity, whom the Goswamis named Sri Radharaman Dev, made his appearance on the full moon day in the year 1542. Except for Vrindadevi, Sri Radharamanji is the only one of the original deities that weren't taken out of Vrindavan when the Muslims invaded. So he stays there near Nidhuban Kunj in Vrindavan. And he's called Radharaman, although physically there's no apparent deity of Radharani, but they keep a place, a sitting place for Srimati Radhika. And in that way the pujaris worship Sri Radha and Ramanji together. So unlike other deities, he has very intricate features. He's got fingernails and he's got teeth. Very beautiful. And on the back side of his body, apparently, you can see the remnants of the Damodar Shila a little bit. So, okay, well, there's a story. There's a little more to talk about, so I might skip some of this. So Sri Gopal Bhatta's devotion was very special, very profound, and therefore the Lord appeared to him in this special form. And it's stated that when he would actually worship Radharaman, sometimes he would manifest as Lord Caitanya to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So it's very special. It's stated here, being subservient to the love of Sri Gopal Bhatta, Sri Radharaman would sometimes accept the form of Sri Gaurasundar. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami, actually, of the 6 Goswamis, there were two devotees that came from Brahminical families, and that was Gopal Bhatta and Raghunath Bhatta, Das Goswamis. So Rupa and Sanatan didn't take disciples. They would send, and Jiva Goswami, they would send the devotees to these two to take initiation. So he had many disciples, Gopal Bhatta Maharaj. But the chief of those disciples, in the sense of his devotional activities, was Srinivas Acharya. He was very glorious. And then he's spoken of in this song that we just sang as the Acharya. He instructed him very nicely, Srinivas Acharya. So Gopal Bhatta wrote many books. Satsandarbha Karika, the Sri Krishna Vallabha, which is called the Krishna Caritamrita, Satkriya Saradipika, which is supposed to be a brilliant Vaishnava work, Laghu Hari Bhakti Vilas. And from this work, Sanatana Goswami compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is now followed by all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. The information came from Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And he actually published it under, Sanatana Goswami published that under Gopal Bhatta Goswami's name. So the Sri Sandarbhas were compiled and put in order, but that also, a lot of that was written, the information came from Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Jiva Goswami put that into the 6 Sandarbhas. So he was very humble and very unassuming, and when Krishnadas Kaviraj wanted to get the blessings of all the devotees to write the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, he asked him, "You please don't mention my name." So he's often mentioned as a Brahmin from South India. There's a little there about him, but he didn't want to be glorified because he was very unassuming and humble and very organized. His standards, he set the standards for Radharamanji worship, which they still follow today. So, all glories to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. The second person I was going to talk about is a disciple of Srinivas Acharya. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami is his grandfather guru, and we know that our grandfather gurus are very special to us. In this case, Gopal Bhatta was the grandfather guru. But first of all, I wanted to say that Sabhavati Prabhu, I think 2 days ago, left in his body in Mayapur, which he desperately wanted to do. He's the one that actually purchased this property, and he spent many years here developing it and sort of encouraged the community. And he's done it. He was a real Prabhupada man. He's done a lot of service for Srila Prabhupada. So we all feel very happy that he got that benediction which he really wanted to leave in Vrindavan. He was here and he was pretty much leaving his body, but he just wanted to get patched up so he could get back to Sri Mayapur Dham. And really he only got back 3 or 4 weeks before he left his body. So Jai, Sabhavati Prabhu ki Jai. So this devotee, Ramachandra Kaviraj, he's mentioned in that song of Narottam Das Thakur because he's a very close friend of Narottam Das Thakur. They were like this, they were very close. He's called Ramachandra Kaviraj because all the Goswamis felt that he is a real poet. He was a wonderful writer and a wonderful poet, so they gave him that name, Ramachandra Kaviraj. So he, as a young man, he was very handsome and intelligent and perseverant. As it happened, his grandfather was a Shivite, and he and his brother went to live with the grandfather, so he took up Shivite worship. And then he got married, and he was being carried in a palanquin through the town called Kumaranagar with his new bride. And as the procession passed Srinivasacharya Prabhu's house in Jajigram, he saw the Acharya seated on the veranda of his house discussing Krishna Katha with some of his disciples. Simply upon seeing the Acharya, he felt a strange new emotion dawn in his heart. He thought, it was as if he was seeing a very dear friend after a long time of separation. Similarly, Srinivasacharya, upon seeing Ramchandra seated in the palanquin, immediately inquired from those present about who he was. And they told him he's a great scholar, an excellent poet. He's a physician, and he resides at Kumaranagar. So Srinivasacharya smiled at this. So then Ramchandra became very anxious to meet Srinivasacharya. And, once the bride and bridegroom were welcomed, he stayed the day there, but in the night he immediately returned to where he'd seen Srinivasacharya. And he met him. He fell down at the Acharya's lotus feet and offered obeisances. And Srinivas had been thinking of him, and he picked him up and embraced him in deep ecstasy. And he said to him, Srinivas said to Ramchandra, birth after birth, you are my most dear friend. In the same way that the Lord caused my meeting with Sri Narottam Das Thakur, he has also reunited me with another dear friend. So they were very, were very affectionate with each other, Srinivasacharya and his disciple, because he was such a wonderful personality, Ramchandra. So he stayed with Srinivasacharya and he studied the literature of the six Goswamis, and Srinivas was very pleased to see his gentle and polite behavior and his deeply spiritual nature, and he initiated him with the Radha Krishna mantra. So after some time, Ramchandra returned home. When the Shiva Shaktas saw him, they're like, what is this? How come you're not worshipping Lord Shiva? And then he would preach to them. And he would preach to them, well, why are you talking about that? Because, you've got all these people like Ravana and Kumbhakarna and Banasura and other demons. They were only devotees of Lord Shiva, and they weren't devotees of Lord Krishna, and they were all destroyed. So he proved that Lord Krishna was the highest worship was to be of Lord Krishna. So he became anxious to meet the Goswamis in Vrindavan, so he went there after taking permission, and was very happy once he got to Vrindavan, because Srinivas Acharya at the time was in Vrindavan. And so he offered his prostrated obeisances at the lotus feet of his guru and Jiva Goswami, and conveyed the good news from the devotees of Gaudadesh. And Jiva Goswami instructed him, take darshan of Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan and Sanatana Goswami's Samadhi. And then he offered obeisances to Gopal Bhatta, Lokanath and Bhugar Goswami, who were very pleased with him and offered their benedictions. So he actually got to meet Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And they heard some samples of his great poetic ability, and that's when they decided, we'll call you Kaviraj. So once upon a time, some Smarta Brahmanas became unhappy that Narottam Das Thakur, who was not born in a Brahmin family, was taking disciples, and they took umbrage. So they decided to expose him as a fraud. So then they took the help of a great pundit called Rupa Narayan, and they took the help of Raja Narasingha, the king, to expose Narottam Das Thakur as a fraud. So they made their way to Caitanya, which is where Narottam Das Thakur was living. So Ramchandra and Ganga Narayan Chakravarti came to know about this, and of course we know that Ramchandra and Narottam were very close. They associated, very closely, and they worshipped Krishna very nicely together. So Ramchandra was definitely going to support his friend. So these two came forward to meet the challenge. So they went to the nearby town of Caitanya, and they dressed up as shopwallahs, turbans, I suppose. And they had two shops. One of them was a pan shop, pan and betel nut shop, and the other was selling clay pots. So the Smarta Brahmanas arrived at Kumarapura and sent their disciples out to purchase wares for cooking their meals, and the students came to these shops. So the shopkeepers, Ramchandra and Ganganarayan, in disguise, spoke to them in Sanskrit. And they're like, what? You're speaking in Sanskrit? They couldn't figure it out. And they began a philosophical dispute with them. And they saw this profound learning of these two shopkeepers, and they were absolutely dumbfounded. But they took up the challenge, but they weren't up for it. It became obvious they were no match for these shopkeepers. So they called for their gurus. So Raja Narasingha and Rupa Narayan came. So Rupa Narayan, the great Pandit, was drawn into the debate and was defeated by the Bhagavat-based arguments of Ramchandra and Ganganarayan. When the king requested their introduction, those two shopkeepers informed them that they were two extremely insignificant disciples of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. And having met defeat in this village marketplace, Rupa Narayan and the Smarta Brahman were no longer interested in going to Khetari. Their crusade evaporated. So that night, when the king slept, he had a dream, and Durga Devi came to him and said, Nrsimha, you have committed a great offence at the feet of Narottam Das Thakur. As a result of this Vaishnava aparayat, I'll have to cut you to pieces with this chopper. If you want to save yourself, you'd better immediately go and take shelter of Narottam Das Thakur's lotus feet. So as soon as his sleep broke, he took bath and took off to go see Narottam Das Thakur, and Rupa Narayan had the same dream. So they both converged at the temple of Narottam Das Thakur. They approached that temple of Sri Gauranga in order to meet Narottam Das Thakur. So he was absorbed at the time in his bhajan, but when a disciple informed him of the arrival of two guests, he came out to meet them. And simply by seeing his beautiful transcendental form imbued with Krishna prem, the two offenders became purified and fell down to offer their obeisances at his lotus feet. So Narottam Das Thakur very humbly presented himself as being a fallen soul, and he initiated them with the Hare Radha Krishna mantra. So many sinful atheists were delivered by Sri Ramchandra Kaviraj, and also he was present at that Khetari festival. And he came a second time to Vrindavan after this on the order of Srinivasa Narottam, but this time he couldn't have darshan of the Goswamis as they had all left this world for Goloka Vrindavan. So he felt very distressed and in separation for them, and he couldn't tolerate that pain. So he joined them there in their eternal pastimes from Vrindavan. So all glories to Sri Ramchandra Kaviraj, all glories to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. These devotees are so glorious, as we heard. They can deliver the whole universe. They're so potent. So it's very nice to remember them and talk about them. And, you know, when we glorify the pure devotees, Sri Krishna himself becomes very, very pleased. So it's a good opportunity on these days to remember these great devotees and to pray to them for their mercy to help us to become just that little bit stronger in our seva. Okay, thank you very much. If anyone has anything to add. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Thank you for your class. We see the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is that every now and then a great soul appears to sort of push on the movement, the teachings, and more often than not they seem to be gopis or someone similar. So I'm sort of thinking, like, for the future, is that something that we should be expecting? that every now and then, I mean, we've had Prabhupada and etc., but it just seems that's the history, is something to continue, or maybe it's like it's up to us to come up to that level. I mean, how would you understand that?
Well, I have great faith that even this third generation are such amazing little devotees. You know, they've come from, really exalted pasts. And we know also that the golden age is coming. We know that the devotees are going to be magistrates with tilak and, in ruling in government positions, because Srila Prabhupada has told us all that. So one can understand that, yes, and just going down, it's just really amazing that as the generations go on, you can sort of see the purification, because they're just coming, especially us first rat bags, came, from such a contaminated state, and we're just sort of witnesses to see that these devotees that are coming are so wonderful and so potent, and through them the movement's going to push it on like anything. And you can see, there are already very exalted devotees appearing in our movement, and that'll be more and more, and it has to be for that golden age to come, and for them to be ruling and the guides of everybody. They have to be, like King Prithu, they have to be such perfect examples, and that will happen. So, but it's a good idea that we try to ourselves come up to the mark. But unfortunately, most of us got a long way to go. But I feel like it's a very rosy future for the movement. Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you for a very, very wonderful class. I feel highly purified from hearing about these great souls.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. There's just a little point on Radha Raman Diti. You probably know this very well, but at some point in time they actually got these, maybe they got challenged, but they got these experts to investigate this deity to prove that it was carved. But they could not find any evidence whatsoever that Radha Raman was carved, because it's a self-manifest deity. So.
Yeah. Yeah, because I forgot to say there were only 11 Sheilas there when
Yes.
the 12th one had gone, and because he'd manifested the Damodar Sheila. But yeah, it's very wonderful. Even when you see him, he's very potent, Radha Raman. You just he's very easy to sort of fall in love with. He's so beautiful and curvy, and yeah. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.